Hi, this is Christoph, and I just wanted to create this brief video just to check in with you and to talk about the kind of reflection that you'll be doing this week in preparation for your first paper. So you don't have a regular lecture for this week, but really I want you to place close attention to the readings and to a specific items in your discussion forums for this week. So you will recall that we've talked a lot about context. That was our initial conversation over the summer, and many of you, most of you have already defined your context that you are thinking about and theologically reflecting upon a real place. And for some of you, this may be a ministry context that you have experienced in the past. It may be a ministry context that you are presently in, or one that you intend to engage in the future. So for this first paper, you'll want to give us a deep sense of what that context is, a sense of the history of that place, maybe some of the ideologies that have helped to shape it, and the people that are there. And part of what you'll be doing in this first paper is thinking about how does context, how does that come into conversation with your own personal presence and the religious formation that you bring to that context. So even as we're thinking about the context, you don't want to bracket who you are. You don't want to deny the impact of your presence. But this first paper is called Context and Method, precisely so we can bring those two together and to think about them in relationship to one another. So your conversations in the forum and the conversation that we'll be having in the Zoom on Thursday are both dedicated to helping you think about developing your theological method for your ministry context. So some things I want you to be thinking about. What sources will you be engaging in your method? And how are they authoritative for you? And what issues are arising in your ministry context, right, that you want to be thinking about? Those two questions, I think, are going to be the most important to think about this week. And as it relates to the readings, I want you to think about how Dolores Williams is engaging method, but also how she thinks about tradition. Notice the questions that she poses to James Cone. Notice how she negotiates tradition and scripture. Notice how she establishes her own norm. So again, thinking about the reading of Dolores Williams as an example of tradition in action. Right, so you have the one reading is from Stephen Ray and Laurel Schneider, Tradition in Action. And with Dolores Williams, you have an example of that. So your first paper really is the intersection of your ministry context, you as an individual, and the religious tradition that you represent. And at the center of that is going to emerge your theological method. And in particular, as it relates to method, although I want you to be attentive to tradition, scripture, experience, etc., but I also want you to come out of this week with a clear sense of your sources and norms. Right? So we want to have that kind of clarity moving into our work on sin and evil. So again, thinking about sources and norms as arising out of the religious tradition that you represent and the issues that are present in your ministry context. Right? That is going to help decide what your sources and norms will be. Okay. So once again, the discussion section for this past week, the discussion was very good. Please keep up the good work. And again, we'll be workshopping this question of sources and norms, not only in the forum, but also in our Zoom session as well. All right. Thank you so much.